Hi, everybody. This is day 1656 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered in the line of duty, on Fort Bliss in 2020, in July 2020. Um, there's been so much tampering with this case that we've had to, well, we were told that we had to do the investigation, that we had to bring the leads, otherwise they couldn't help us. So we knew that something was very stinky when they told us that, but we um, we understood that if we wanted to figure out what happened to our son, we would have to do the work. That was very clear. So we rolled up our sleeves, so to speak, and we got busy. And we are, way over 4 years, 1,656 days since. Well, that's that's a little, probably is a little off, because of the tampering, but it's around about that time that Richard was murdered, the in the line of duty, and the crime scene, we believe, is the basement room in building 2479 on Fort Bliss. We believe that is the crime scene. We believe that a lot of things were happening in there, um, because Richard was reporting the criminal trafficking and the corruption. And we know now, just in what, not even 3 weeks, but we know now that what is being found out uh, at the Pentagon, at U.S. aid, um, in the Department of Education, that there is um, a campaign to be up to no good. Really, think about it. It's a campaign to be up to no good. Where there is no justice, there is just a band of robbers. That's not me. That's St. Augustine. Where there is no justice, there is just a criminal syndicate, a band of robbers. And that's what we see. We see theft everywhere, and theft of everything, right? And real egregious crimes, and the destruction of our country. That is the campaign, the destruction of our country. And where are you going to go? Where are you going to go if you're if you're into destroying your country, right? So, um, so we are on a well, we are, I would say, allies to President Trump. We've been allies to President Trump since the beginning, 2015. Um, yeah, we've been allies with him. We have witnessed the criminal actions against him, the weaponization of our system to interfere in politics. And in our son's case, that just amplified those those facts, right? Um, and that, I think that's why we have gotten so far in this case, is because even though neither Rob and I and our family have a law degree, um, we absolutely understood that there was corruption at the highest levels, the abuse of power at high levels, abusing the tools and the trust that was given to them, in a very, very bad way. And some of them, are people that when we met them, we really liked. One of the heartbreaking moments in all of this, and even in my videos when I make the videos, is to put Brigadier General David Stewart's picture in there. It was heartbreaking to see him be twisted and turned into someone that was up to no good. You know, we saw it right in front of our face. Um, that was not his initial intention. He was kept in the dark, I think, when he became the commander of the 32nd ADCOM. Um, I think his intention was good at the beginning. That's why he told us about the audits, about the weapons all over the barracks flush. And, um, he really was trying to do some good. And they grabbed him and they twisted him and turned him and clicked his heels together, sent him away. When he came back, he was a different person. And it was really, really heartbreaking to see because um, he he then became up to no good, and he became a lesser man, a really lesser man, and it was really heartbreaking to see the change. The betrayal right in front of your face. Sean Bernabe was always was always up to no good, right? He was always up to no good. And so was Michael Garrett. He was always up to no good. And so was General McConville and General Mealy, um, Christina Warmoth, the Secretary of the Army. They were always up to no good. Um, but to see someone get compromised right in front of your eyes over a period of months, um, it's really heartbreaking. And what it did mean to us is a real respect for our son, a real respect for him, real pride in his achievement to stand his ground. And it cost him his life in the line of duty. But he's a greater man for it, a greater man. And so, those mixed emotions, um, I just can't explain to anybody. But the more that we have investigated, we have realized what a great man our son, was, had become, right? The whistleblower soldier at Fort Bliss, the whistleblower, not a whistleblower, the whistleblower. And what he reported and what he stood for um, has really changed El Paso and will change it more. And in memory of him and in the pursuit of getting his remains and getting justice for him, we hope and pray that for the good of El Paso, we can restore the criminal justice system there that has been so destroyed, that was key in allowing these the corruption in the criminal law, the criminal justice system there, is key to allowing all of these very vicious, vulgar, vile, very horrendous crimes, and is a national security threat. So we have heard about the death camp today, the death camp that thousands and thousands of children were being brought through that death camp. And They were marking them on their arm, numbers on their arm. I mean, we're talking about this, being of German heritage. This just makes you want to go and throw up, right? I mean, it just makes you physically sick to hear that in our country and on our military base, they were putting numbers on children's arms and the children were disappearing. They were disappearing. And not just a few of them, thousands and thousands of them. Thousands of them. We cannot give up. We cannot give up. We have to keep going. And so to hear that today, yeah, that was absolutely confirmation that what we're doing is so right, so right. And with President Trump in office now, it is surreal because the information that we have received over these few days, that corroborates everything and also adds some missing pieces to this big story, this big murder case of our son, absolutely connects to Trump and to his first administration. And so the circle is coming around, right? It's going full circle. And, to learn that the federal courthouse there in El Paso was compromised, absolutely compromised. There's no other way around it. You have Michael Maiella. I'm going to say that name right one day. Michael Maiella, being the manager of that courthouse, which is huge. He's the right-hand man for Judge Waterama, right? Right-hand man. And Judge Kathleen Cardone, right? Huge. He runs that federal courthouse. This is El Paso's justice system. Another piece of it that is now confirmed to be corrupted, compromised, and with a very high profile case. But if they are willing to do this with a high profile case, what other cases have they compromised their integrity with? And you can say, but wait a minute, Michael's daughter is not marrying everybody from every case, or, he doesn't have that many daughters to marry others from every case or whatever. The point is that it is a big case. And yes, she did, from everything that's out there, she married Brian Blake Crucius, Patrick Crucius's brother. They should have absolutely taken that Walmart mass shooting case and given it to like San Antonio, right? Out of El Paso. But they didn't do the right thing. Brian Blake Crucius is a different person than Patrick Crucius. Of course, they have mitigating evidence. We know that. That we know that they could have spoken up or should speak up for their brother, and they haven't, because they have absolute evidence for the case. But they kept silent, and let the narrative go, let the narrative flow. And the narrative was really targeting President Trump. It was a political narrative of white supremacy and hate crime, and that he didn't have any connection to El Paso, which was an absolute lie. So they let those lies go forward, and they let an election be tampered with. They let false information get out there um, to hurt Trump supporters, so the MAGA people, um, you know, with true information. Other people that maybe weren't MAGA, that were looking in to who to vote for, that heard this narrative, and it might have influenced them, right, to promote them and influence them, and try to put forth Beto O'Rourke. That's what they were trying to do, and he fell. He fell. Thank God, he fell. Um, so this was absolutely a political. This is very clearly, obviously, a political targeting and an attack on President Trump, um, because what happened in Walmart is um, is so sensitive, is so damning, that the state case is frozen because they did wrong. We know that um, James Montoya has problems right now because he cannot produce his statement of office or an oath of office. Why not? It's been over a month. Why can't you produce your statement of officer and your oath of office? We've asked Judge Guadarrama, who swore him in twice. I don't know why that was necessary. Um, and he can't produce it. And, why hasn't he, uh, why did he freeze the Walmart case, right? We know that Joe Spencer has problems. We know Joe Spencer has problems because we have the audio recordings that prove, that confirm that he has major problems in this case. And we know that Judge Madrano has problems because of the ex parte deals, the backroom deals, um, and the unlawful agreement to allow the federal case to move forward before the state case. Um, there's a lot of problems there, and more that I'm not at liberty to say. But now we know that the federal courthouse and the federal case had problems, and that Bob Moore of El Paso Matters was again involved in that. Again involved in that. And this time with a quid pro quo. Quid pro quo? Of course. It is absolutely, you don't even have to guess. It's absolutely clear that El Paso Matters, at the time, you're talking about July of 2020, received quid pro quo because their 501c3 status requires them to not be biased. Okay? They're not like a independent newspaper. They are dependent. they receive a 501c3 tax-free status. And because of that, they have to be truthful. They cannot be biased. And for El Paso Matters, whose editor at the time was Bob Moore, to make a deal with Michael Maiella to withhold his name was absolutely quid pro quo. Because what that did was leverage El Paso Matters with the federal courthouse, with, you know, favors, right? I got a secret on you, bud, on a very high profile case. And, now I get access, right? I get access and um, I get information and I can scheme to remove and replace a duly elected district attorney, and you can't say anything. I can tamper with witnesses, and you can't say anything. I can report politically, and you can't say anything. This is absolutely quid pro quo. And let's not forget that El Paso Matters is owned by, very connected to, El Paso Community Foundation, which was receiving the money, $12 million, over $12 million for the Walmart Victims Fund, and had deposited it into West Star Bank. And so, you've got to follow the money. And, if you look to see what was the transparency, and maybe those that are listening can help me out with this, but it seems to us that there has not been transparency in how the $12 million was distributed, who that went to. There doesn't seem to be transparency in that. And I think that they are supposed to be transparent with that kind of money, from where that money came from. They're supposed to be transparent. Where is that money? Because it was supposed to be for the victims of the Walmart mass shooting. And right now, I don't see the transparency. Maybe $300,000 worth out of 12 million. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. We're talking about over 5 years later, and we don't have the transparency on the $12 million, where Bob Moore of El Paso Matters is directly connected to that agency that distributes that money, is in charge of distributing that money. Who's getting the interest on that money? Where is it? What's going on? So, there is this Michael Maiella. Do they have the power? Would they have the power to even want to investigate, or, would that, what is what's their power about that kind of looking into or getting justice when the justice system is broken or compromised or corrupted, and you have all these questions, and you have Bob Moore just running amok, right? Running amok. In Ireland, we call it, well, playing the maggot, that's what we call it, playing the maggot, running amok, being up to no good, right? Being up to no good. Um, and now we understand why. If the federal courthouse is making a quid pro quo for silence because Michael Mayela's not only his daughter marrying a Crucius is not the only um, conflict of interest here. I mean, his son is working for Walmart for security. Security failed. His son was interning with the district attorney, with Jaime Esparza, who was the DA over the case and then, as the AG, screened from the case. His son was there working on cases at the FBI field office with Agent Nieto, which leaked the whistleblower witness report that identified Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa to Leilani Hart and Tavita Nusa. And it begs to question, because we already know the answers, but it begs the question, how well did he know Dallas Hart? How well does Michael and the Crucius, it's just crazy. How well do they know the Harts? Um, so this is really a huge breaking news in our case. It is just huge. And, the justice system, it just couldn't get worse in El Paso. So that means it's going to be on the mend now. And we have Pam Bondi. I mean, really, it's just like, wow, how bad could it get? And then it's like, okay, it has to reverse. It's one of those balls going back and forth, right? Um, it's gone so far over. And now we have the money being drained from them. The money being drained, because the border is being closed down tighter and tighter every day, which drains the monies, their business, and really bogs up the whole um, chain, right? The whole chain of product, drugs and everything. So I'm sure that Santa Teresa International Jetport is being watched now. I'm sure that Fort Bliss is being watched now. So all of that criminal trafficking, there has to, there's a lot going on, and the money is being stopped with the criminals. It's really the spigot is being turned off. And so there's some gnashing of the teeth. Of course, there are going to be gnashing of the teeth. And I hear that there on the Mexican side, that there has been some real violence, even a general being killed. There is some real violence over there. And, so we have to be very, very vigilant in what's going on at the border, because the justice system still has not been repaired. So when you have a known broken criminal law magistrate court, a known broken chief medical examiner, You can't get an honest cause and manner of death. You cannot depend on an honest co- um, cause and manner of death. It's just horrible. And when you have a DA office where the DA, it looks like it is um, the duly elected Yvonne Rosales, who was so targeted, unjustly targeted. She's the only DA, really, when you look at it, she's the only DA that made a move with the Walmart case. She was seeking a trial date, right? And they went after her. You think James Montoya is going to seek a trial date? I don't think so. Bill Hicks never did, right? And Jaime Esparza never did, right? And, so the only one that did was Yvonne Rosales. And they targeted her. They do not want the forensics to come out. Um, because look at when stuff comes out, just the last couple days, it is so clear that we have been told lies, and that those lies, that narrative, clearly was for political maneuvering, a political attack in order to put forth a a political a candidate that they wanted to push forward a political candidate. And Joe Spencer has done that in the past. Remember, he in the newspaper, he kept a female um, attorney from running for district attorney. He's like a mob boss, right? He's like a mob boss, and it's being run like a mob boss, and so that's when you know that this is real connections with the cartel, because it's being run like a mob boss. If you can tell a candidate, and she recorded him, right? She recorded it because she's so afraid. She feels like she has to record everything. Good for her. And um, and yeah, they threatened her. She could not run for district attorney, even though she wanted to, and she felt like she had the resources to do it, um, or the will to do it. And they said absolutely no way. That was with Joe Moody, right? Joe Moody, who uh, isn't he connected to West Star Bank? Isn't he connected to West Star Bank? $12 million is a lot of money to protect, and I don't know. There's needs to be some transparency there. The way that people are stealing money left and right, like through the U.S. aid, the way they have stole money through the education system, and this is something that is very, very dear to my heart. Um, because when all of those mandates were going on before we knew that Richard was murdered in the line of duty for reporting criminal trafficking, we were trying to help parents when the schools were closed down to not panic, and show them how to, if even if they worked, how to give their child an education through that mandate, and be better off for it, and be better off, um, because our education system, it ranks the lowest. Out of 40, it's number 40. It's the last. It's the worst. It's just the bottom of the barrel. And the bad thing is that we spend more pu- uh, for each pupil, right? Per pupil than any other country, and far above it. And that's all property taxes, right? So for all of that money that is like very painful to pay with the property taxes, at least we were thinking, okay, at least it's going to a good education for children. No, it's going to theft, theft. Our children have been cheated. For the money that we have spent, we should be the top. The top. And having experience in the German school system, having experience with the Polish school system, having experience with the Irish school system, um, and those curriculums, and the small amount of money they spend, but they are far better off. So we're doing something wrong. We're doing something very, very wrong. And it's not about the, oh, it's an accident. No, this is deliberate. This is a deliberate attack on our children. Why? Because this has been going on since I became a teacher, since before I had children. This was the same discussion. So it's the same purposeful, and I realized it when I was a kindergarten teacher at Killeen in Killeen, Texas, on, right outside of Fort Hood. And the standardized testing was instituted, and they were telling me that I had to give my kindergartners these bubble tests to fill in these bubbles to answer the questions. And I was like, okay, something is wrong here. Something is very, very wrong here. So that was back in the 80s. And yeah, it was definitely somebody that does not know anything about education and children and early childhood education, um, that was in charge of that testing. And so, does this connect to Richard? Does this connect to El Paso? Does this connect? It does, because um, times have changed. Thank God. In less than 3 weeks, times have changed. And all of that nonsense, insanity, corruption, compromise, waste, fraud, abuse, murder, murder, national security threats, breaches in security, taking advantage of the good nature of our system. It's changed now. And I have something, since yesterday was the day of prayer, and this is a paragraph that I read years and years ago, and it has sustained our family. And I'm going to read it to you, since we're burning the midnight oil. And it's just, I hope that it will sustain you in what's coming, because, of course, all these changes shake everything, right? And we're unsure of what's going to happen. But we were being robbed. Our children were being hurt. In our case, our child was murdered. Our country was being chipped away, stolen, chipped away, weakened, weakened and weakened. And, so what do we have to lose? We have to go forward, and we have to go forward in courage. And so this is, I hope that this helps. And this is also from a very Christian perspective. And there's been a lot of talk about, you know, yesterday, the MAGA, the Christians, and when you look back in history, it seems that Christians have been very persecuted. But they're the ones that bring in the property rights, the hard money, so you don't have the copper nose, right? The copper nose, that you don't have the inflation, that you have strong families, that you have respect for other people, that you don't lie, right? This lying. I was listening. Some, you know, the problem right now is you have a lot of people claiming to be MAGA or something that they're not. They're lying because they're trying to jump on they're grifters, right? They're grifters. And you just see that they're trying to change their spots, um, to find a way, right? So, but that's a false witness. And there's been so many false witnesses, agents. There's been agents in this, right? And they've been paid. And I'm thinking, I wonder if the agents that were really part of this were being paid by the USAID, right? I mean, really, I mean, it's crossed my mind. Um, so I'll read this paragraph, though. It is from a Christian point of view. This makes the issue clear cut. There is no kingdom for us if we are not in the kingdom now. There is no new creation we can look forward to in eternity if we are outside the new creation now. The kingdom is, and it is to come. The new heavens and the new earth are and are to come. The fullness is at the end of time, but it is here today in reality. This means that Christians are neglecting their inheritance and failing to make use of their power in Christ. They live in terms of victory tomorrow instead of victory today, in terms of joy tomorrow instead of joy today. How can we enjoy heaven if we cannot enjoy earth? How can we rejoice in the eternal order beyond time when we cannot rejoice in the new creation today? Revelation was written to suffering and troubled Christians, as well as smug and self satisfied Christians, who alike waited for the kingdom to come and felt that the world's problems presented a hindrance to Christ and his kingdom. The revelation makes clear that the kingdom is now, and that not by evading conflict, responsibility, and suffering, but by assuming it, do we Christians in the church gain our inheritance. Both compromise with the world and flight from it assume that Christ is impotent and that his kingdom is in the future and has no power today. So I hope you repeat that. It's from Thy Kingdom Come by R.J. Rushdoony. It's a commentary on Daniel and Revelation, and it's in the chapter about the new heavens and the new earth. And I read that years ago, and it's been just something that you can't let go of when you know that there is something to fight for. Um, that life does give you problems, and they are not a hindrance to Christ and his kingdom. And what we have seen through these 4 years is absolutely God's hand on all of this. And on the very day that Pam Bondi got the votes to be the Attorney General was the day that we happened to come across that article in El Paso Matters, July 29th, 2020, which shows and confirms quid pro quo between Bob Moore of El Paso Matters and the El Paso Federal Courthouse. And not only that, but that the connection, the conflict of interest would lead to Michael Jr., who has very questionable connections and conflicts of interest also, that we believe is going to help get justice for our son, Richard Halliday, who was murdered in the line of duty. So thank you so much. Spread the information. I'm putting together some things to help spread that information. And, just uh, please keep praying and working hard. Thank you. God bless you. And I'll be